Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, what?
Worst thing that we nobody.
All right, we're back. Actually, you guys might not be back yet. Hold on. Let me fix this. There we go. Now we're back, actually.
Oh.
Okay, so we're going to go into some Redbull Battlegrounds talk, which, is it going on still right now? It might still be going on. No, it's over. Okay, it's over for the day.
It wrapped up.
Let's, was today the last day?
Nope.
No, it's still.
Keep going.
All right. Okay, so let's talk about it. It's, so obviously it's been going on, 6 players involved, different type of format where there's lives and each player gets to pick their opponent between series. I think they each take turns picking who they want to play. And let's just start up with what do you think about the format? Jeff, you go first.
I think it's awesome. I think in this stage, actually, right now, almost anything is awesome to the format that every single tournament's doing, which is the GSL, like, winner, loser versus winner, etc. thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that this encourages, like, collusion, and they
like
bring them on
collusion
beforehand, and they're like, what do you think about getting picked here and why? And that's just, it's interesting. It's a little bit like Home Story Cup in the sense that I wouldn't want every tournament to be like this by any means, but I like that they went and looked for something different and they're doing it. Because they split $3,000 each day, it encourages eliminating people. So if someone gets down to 1 life, like everyone should pick on that person to try to get more money for themselves. It's a really cool format that way. And Nathanius, Todd, Rotterdam, Day 9 all casting is fantastic. They're all suited up nice. They're in a nice big Red Bull studio.
Yep.
And just the idea of Red Bull getting involved and already announcing Atlanta, Detroit, which, by the way, L-O-fucking-L. I don't. But anyways,
that's kind of
just getting involved as they are. I think it's awesome. I don't think
Yeah.
anyone should look at this and be upset in any way or disappointed.
Steven? Welcome.
For the most part, I agree with Jeff. The only one minor thing I would like to see changed, it would be nice if, I don't even know how they would do it, but if there was some bonus, like if you were entitled to like a larger share of that day's money if you played multiple matches in the same day. Just because I do feel bad sometimes, like the puck situation where you get picked like 15 times or whatever. It would be nice if you get picked multiple times and you end up like doing okay throughout the day, like you're entitled to like a little bit more of the prize money. Because right now what happens is you get to this, I feel like there's this really ugly mentality in poker players now, right? If you're playing like a poker tournament and you're near, you're like at the bubble of the tournament, especially if it's just a qualifier, like top 8 qualify, and there's 9 at the table and there's one guy with like few chips left, it pretty much turns into the entire table bullying that guy. Always, people will really politely, like, they'll call down hands with each other just to eliminate. Like, it turns into a really ugly situation, which I guess some people can say is interesting, but I don't know. I think it would be interesting, like, if you get picked. So, like, let's say it gets to the point where, like, at the end of the day, it's a no-brainer, I think, for most people to choose Puck with the way the format goes, right? Like, oh, like, Puck is almost eliminated. Like, I have to pick him just because if he gets eliminated, it's more money for me. If there was the idea that if he survives that pick, he's entitled to, like, a larger share, then I think it forces a little bit more decision making. Like, oh, like if I pick him and eliminate him, that's good. But if I lose to him, I'm kind of fucking myself in that choice. Because I think when somebody hits,
or something like that.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Just something to make it so that it's not like a super no-brainer in who you pick. Like, oh, well, like that guy's low in lives, like everybody fucking pick him and then you just mob them out.
I think that's a good idea. Or maybe even an extra life or something weird like that.
Yeah, I don't know. There has to be some kind of disincentive to like ganging up on a dude.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I don't know. I feel like that kind of sucks. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, the format is super interesting. And pretty much what Jeff said, anything that comes in now to change things up in a good way is really cool.
Richard, Cody, you guys following it?
Well, I wasn't able to follow it because it was StarCraft, and I can never follow anything
Cody, you following
about StarCraft except the drama. Yeah, okay. You want to shut me off because I'm rambling too much, and you go to Cody. Okay, cool.
That's true.
It's good thinking. No, seriously.
Thanks, Richard, for holding this down for me. I appreciate it.
No, man, fuck it. I got to throw you under the bus now. This is how it works. We've got Jeff on and Destiny on. They're more popular than me. You're the de facto. You're the victim now. It has to be that way. But anyway, no. It was any format I think that's slightly different and original at this point is going to bring something to the StarCraft table, and we've talked about it on this show before. And I think this is a really cool one. Actually, I've never seen anything even remotely comparable to it in esports. And even though I again can't follow what's going on because it's StarCraft, the format looks fucking really good on paper. So I'd even go as far as to say, maybe it's something that could transfer to, some other games, perhaps. But certainly for StarCraft, it's really caught the imagination, and rightly so.
So Jeff,
There you go.
if you were playing in
My
if you were playing in this event, Jeff,
Mhm.
what would your strategy be going into it? Would you, or how many people would you collude with?
Sorry, Cody, I really fucked you over.
I don't know. I was already on like a reality TV show where there was collusion and stuff like that, and it actually didn't even dawn on me until afterwards that was an idea. Like I usually go in for the game. So once they started talking about collusion between Huck and all them, and then the drama was like, but then Huck told Violet they were going to
He
pick
got
him.
kicked out of it. Yeah.
So Scarlet picked him, but then Huck on camera is like, no, I didn't tell him that. I told him that I'm going to pick him. Like, people get way into that, so it's cool for, like, on a broadcast level, but as far as strategy is concerned, I don't know. I never give a shit about this. Like, it just makes sense that they picked on Puck first. Puck was probably the weaker player, but then tip of the fucking hat to Puck, who makes a show of it, taking down a few of them, but despite getting picked every single time. And then they pick Huck, and Huck was probably the weaker player then again. And Huck, I got a kick out of, like, in one game, he said something, in game 2 against Scarlet, when he started to pull ahead, he's like, friends make the worst enemies. And I was like, oh, badass. But then Scarlet came back and beat him, and I'm like, that's the worst fucking moment in that guy's life right now. Like,
He should have. Huck had it.
She spine crawler rushed him in one game, right?
no, but that was sick.
No,
She did that really well, actually.
Yeah.
The sad thing
That
is that
looks
Huck
like a
had
joke.
that.
That's a real strategy. That's
He
good.
had that game won until his fucking computer fucked up too. That's the sad thing, right?
He
But
tweeted
no,
about it, right?
See
that was a
Twitter,
question, but
guys,
for me,
see
like,
Twitter.
I'm the wrong guy to ask because I don't look at that and strategize. I would go in and try to win every game I play, and I would get picked first. Obviously, it would be Puck for me, but I would be the Puck rather. But I like it. It's cool, and like I said, I like that in the format they play to it too. They fucking go over to the guys and they're like,
Yeah.
"All right, so and so just picked you," and it was a good mix because these are qualified players too. This wasn't invites,
Yeah.
but even so, they were all candid and honest and fun about it. I liked that. I really did. So it's made for a good entertainment. If it was like 8 Koreans, and Koreans can be cheeky too, but sometimes they're just not. They'd be like, "They picked you. What do you think?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I'm bad, so that makes sense." And we're all like, "Oh."
That's
Any
true,
of you?
that's
So
true.
did any of you catch that? Carmack had a tweet. Carmack tweeted
Yeah.
in and insisted that he was like, "Hey, maybe you guys are doing this wrong."
No, he suggested maybe I'm the one that told you to do this.
Well,
He said
Carmack-
whoever created this format is a genius, and then he's like a winky face.
No. There was a tweet that went out today, and he was like, "Hey, you guys are doing this wrong. The winners should pair the next 2 players. This is the opposite of how you were doing it." Did anyone catch this? This one might have gone missed.
I could
I'll
ask
link
the other
it in
900 people to
chat.
follow Carmack on Twitter. I can't.
Yeah. On. I thought it was funny. Because like he singled Robin, Mr. Bitter out, and I was like, oh, that's not really professional.
Yeah,
Wait.
I'm reading the Twitter feed
Where is
now.
it?
That does
Here.
seem a bit salty.
Yeah.
Link it.
Hang on.
I wanted to tweet back and say, hey, this isn't how you get a Red Bull sponsorship, and I know that's what you've been working at for the last several years.
Wow.
So-
Ouch.
fucking going in.
Doing it
Ouch.
wrongly, you got to write an article and do that.
Yeah.
No, but
Richard
yeah,
has taught you nothing.
I've always been insolent. I've never learned anything from those who have done the work before me.
Yeah, it says, where can I find info on this innovative Red Bull format for SC2? And then just obviously people didn't pick up on it, so he tweeted immediately afterwards, somehow the new Red Bull format seems very familiar to me. And then he
Oh,
tweeted
I
that at Mr.
I don't know what
Bitter.
that's in reference to.
It's
I'm
They do an event?
confused.
I can't remember.
It might have been an idea they
I mean,
collaborated with a long
can
time
we be
ago.
real? We're all adults here. Are we gonna act like we're the first one to think of something on the internet? Is this even? Are we being real right now? Like,
if
come
I
on.
can be candid, so I do Twitter. I love Twitter. Like if Twitter is a sparring sport, like Twitter is like maybe what I excel best at. It is absolutely a please God notice me, please God,
Yeah.
please God, is what those tweets amount to.
Okay.
Yeah, but we don't know enough to go
Yeah.
further, I guess.
I guess we don't.
If we can't remember the IEM, the obscure IEM that they did, where they did this format, then we got nothing.
That's right.
Must have
Okay,
been
well,
IEM.
does
like,
anything? Does
Hang
any-
on, we
Everett,
have got
Washington.
something. We've got Twitch chat. Come on. One of these fuckers who watch our show must...
It had to be a
must know what
long
he's
fucking time
talking
ago
about.
if it was.
Okay.
Does
well,
anything-
let's not
does
do this
anything
thing where
change?
we ramble about it if we don't know. So let's talk about the next subject.
Does
right?
anything change in the finals? Do y'all know for the format?
No. They just keep eliminating until they get $3,000 split between like 2 people. I think it's a 3-day event. I think it ends tomorrow. So
yeah. Right before
there's 3 people live.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about NA. Just and StarCraft 2 and NA, and involves, I guess, some of the things that Totalbiscuit's been saying. Just and some of the
that Totalbiscuit.
What? Oh.
That Totalbiscuit guy.
Yeah, so he's posted some things about some of the Shoutcraft events recently, and actually I missed some of those posts because it just recently.
It was in his post-mortem about this last Shoutcraft event, which was Korean.
Right. And I think it led to him saying that he's not going to do any more NA events. That's right. I mean, he's in the chat
he's
right
not
now.
as interested or something like that. It wasn't like, I don't think the language was, I will never do that ever again. It was more like, I'm not interested or motivated to do that.
Yeah.
You know.
Was this like, so Totalbiscuit's in chat, was this like an actual Totalbiscuit tweet, or was this an emotional Totalbiscuit tweet? Because I'm pretty sure he dropped Shoutcraft in the past emotionally.
Not a tweet. He does a post-mortem after every event, and he says, here's what the numbers are, here's the good and the bad. And one of the segments was talking about the games and the competition. And he just brought up, basically, that right now he's not interested in doing another NA Scene one because... I don't know if he went into detail about it, but he was pretty openly upset with how the last one went, actually.
He just says he can't find sponsors to touch it either, so he's not motivated to do it.
What's wrong with the... I'm sorry, did something bad happen with the event? Was it a low viewer count?
No, it wants to be called.
It was well, yeah.
Let's just talk to John. It's
yeah, Scandisk basically.
I think we should
really
just keep. I think we should just keep talking about him and leave him in chat.
I actually can speak.
Yeah, maybe that's a better idea.
I can do that. That's fine.
Do it. Go for it. Do it.
Yeah.
See how mad you can make. Oh, fuck, he's on. Too late.
Shocking.
No point in talking for you, John. So
we were gonna sit here and talk to you
this
this
time
until you went fucking crazy.
I'm gonna start like alpha hosting this. John, go ahead and elaborate on the point we're all talking about.
Yeah, the accurate kind of description of it is it was part of the Shoutcraft post-mortem and the ensuing discussion that kind of came behind that. And it was answering sort of a question as to why we were giving more money to the Koreans. It's like, wow, they're getting enough money anyway, right? And my belief, actually, that the Korean scene just has this just gigantic talent pool and nowhere near enough events, which is why they come over here and take our gerbs all the time, as they don't really have too much to do. And someone asked about Shoutcraft America. And I was like, well, look at it this way. Like, the last event was not a success. It really was not. We had a good lineup, I'd say a better lineup than the original Shoutcraft America, even though we had half the prize pool. We had 25% of the contestants forfeit. Most of the games were pretty terrible. The finals were a complete washout. We had to reschedule things. There was more regarding Muslim's excuses for not basically showing up to the rest of the games and quitting mid-tournament and things like that.
He was sick.
He was sick.
Again.
Several times.
He was sick, yeah, absolutely. So
wait. 25% is perfect. Is this the most recent one, or is this happened again?
No, the Shoutcraft America Winter, that was like
Steven's just now
the end of last year.
John, don't let him derail you. Keep going, please.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Holy fuck.
Like, let me put it this way. Like, the experience of dealing with the Korean players for Shoutcraft SanDisk was infinitely more enjoyable than dealing with the American players for Shoutcraft America Winter. Like, every one of them there, 20 minutes beforehand, at exactly the right time for check-in, completely efficient. They spoke to the admins exactly when they needed anything. There were no problems at all. We had access to the coaches and the staff whenever we needed them. Everything was just wonderful. Like, it was a tournament admin's dream to work with those guys. And if you compare that, and you look at the numbers as well and the quality of the games to what we saw from Shoutcraft America, it's hard to view that tournament, at least with that format, as anything more than kind of a charity effort. And I don't really want to treat that scene like a charity effort. And if someone else wants to take up the banner dealing with NA, which apparently Red Bull's doing now, and they've found a cool format to do it in, where they can play off the strengths of a lot of the American players, the personality, they can do a different kind of format, great. But right now, I've tried to get another Shoutcraft America going, and I can't get a sponsor to touch it, and you need only look at the numbers that we were able to get from Ting for their ROI, which we published freely, and Ting was awesome to allow us to do that, to say, look, this is not worth the hassle.
Yeah. So where I would inject some opinion here too, and it goes without saying, I don't disagree. Well, obviously you stated just facts, and I think off the base of those facts, your opinion is very valid and I think everyone would agree with it. No one looks at that and says anything otherwise. What I would say is, I just came back from playing, a week or two on the European server, and it's been true in the past where people talk about how the European server is better than NA, and that's always been true, but to varying degrees. And right now, the disparity is the highest. And to make my long-winded answer shorter, the reason for that is because they have Koreans playing in the gem house very actively, raising the skill level. They have daily cups that the Europeans actually contribute and pay and matter to them. They have the EPS series that are local to Poland, to Germany, so they have kind of local competition. They have all these things fostering higher level competition.
Yep.
And one of the things that came closest to that for the NA scene that really kind of unanimously people were like, thank you, Totalbiscuit, oh my god, this is so great, was that Shoutcraft had the monthly competition where the top so-and-so qualified for this tournament. And that raised the skill level. All of a sudden you had Koreans coming over, all of a sudden you had some Europeans, but even beyond that, you had the best NA players actively looking to play meaningful ladder games as opposed to one hand in the pants, the other on the mouse, like, I don't give a fuck, I'm trolling, LOL. So I agree that it sucks that, unfortunately, some of the personalities gave you a bad taste because of dropping out and all that stupid shit, which I would never excuse. It was all bad. But it's funny reading the chat, too, because that was also like 6 months ago drama, guys, so you got to really step up your troll game. It's over. What I would say is I would hope and I want a world where everything is said as true, but we still strive for a place where we do get some sponsor, or if not a sponsor, we crowdsource something. Because I agree, it would be a charity case if you're looking to run a business based off of a tournament that is NA strictly, because that would be the worst place to do that. But I would also acknowledge that there are good players here, there are professionals, there are people that take it serious, and it would suck if the poison apples ruin the entire batch when there is something entertaining here. The Red Bull, like you said, it kind of plays to the players' personalities, and it's being successful that way. Sure, there's no reason why another tournament couldn't also do that to some extent as well. But I think if there's ever going to be any hope for the NA scene to be legitimately decent and not just a drama-mongering place where that's the most attention that it ever gets, which, let's be real, that's what it is right now, it has to have some competition injected into it. It's not going to come organically. They tried with WCS where they forced them to play 200 ladder games a season, but that ended up being a joke. Like, it was 200 games of random or off racing. Didn't do anything. It didn't actually get people committed to the ladder. So something like this needs to happen, and you're the best guy for it. So it's not your responsibility by any means. But I would hope that one of the things we could discuss is like what it would take from the community and the other big names around the scene to come together to do something, and not look at it as charity, but look at it as like, fuck the people that would want that charity. Let's get the people that would look at this as a serious payday that like want to make it a competition, and let's try to help them out because they're the ones that are important to the scene.
It's difficult to do that, especially because I think the ladder competition element of it was definitely one of the strongest. It fed into a lot of different parts of the ecosystem, which actually helped out quite a bit. It actually boosted player stream numbers, for instance, while they were streaming, trying to actually get their, especially in the last few days, because every fucking game mattered at that point. Yeah. And there was some seriously stressful stuff going on for those guys, which was awesome. And it made the ladder, like you say, matter again because people were trying to play seriously. And I think it was QXC who said like the ladder has never been more competitive than this. Like, I'm getting really good practice. Yeah, Hug said the same thing. And I think I think that has to be done in some way. I don't know who exactly would do it, and more to the point, if it can be done regularly. We've already had some questionable issues with it when it came to dealing with Smurf accounts and also playing on each other's accounts. We had to try and sift through a lot of it to see if there was any like deliberately dropped games, and there are actually some people doing it. Like Low GM were running into these guys, and they were just like instantly GGing to give a boost to someone's ladder score, things like that. That's kind of hard to deal with. And I think obviously, map hacking comes into play as well. That's as especially if you do it on a monthly basis, you're going to run into the problems of having to deal with map hackers. So that's just like qualification for an event, really, isn't it? And the question is, will people watch it? And if you do it on a regular basis, you really get a huge like diminishing returns, and it gets worse before it gets better. Like if Shoutcraft happens like every 6 months, we can at least do a lot of promotion leading up to it. If it's a monthly thing, it's really hard to push people to watch that, and in order to they're tied into the popularity of the players and legitimacy of the players is tied into that tournament. So you've got to like suffer through like months and months and months of either bad games or problems with viewership, possibly both, in order to improve things to get people to actually watch again. And who's going to pay for it at the end of the day? Like, which sponsor's going to touch it? That's difficult. I can get a sponsor in a heartbeat for SanDisk Shoutcraft's numbers. I can get a sponsor in a heartbeat. SanDisk got the best deal they have ever got for $10,000. I'm happy to say that. There's no way they could have spent $10,000 better than that. The numbers were brilliant. And obviously, it just shows, like, look, if we get the best, then we get the viewership that counts, even if we put it on at a bloody terrible time for Europe. And I can't say the same for NA. I really can't. And no, even with the whole like personality driven thing, you remember like the first Shoutcraft we did where we got people on for like trash talk interviews before that?
Failed miserably.
It was cringeworthy. That like we had 1 or 2 funny interviews.
Hello Kitty versus Suppy was the worst I've ever seen in my entire life.
That was pretty bad. Suppy is actually incapable of bad mannering anybody.
He's not.
On Skype. Like, it just can't be done. So that didn't work out too well. We tried to inject a little bit of drama there, and it fell flat on its face. So I don't know what would be done with the format, and if the viewership is even there. Like NA viewership seems to be in a spiral, both in terms of streaming and in terms of people caring about NA players. And there's no one really outside from Scarlet to actually lead the charge at the moment, and that's a big problem.
Something that Jeff brought up earlier that nobody really talks about. We all kind of laugh and say like ladder's a joke, ladder's a joke. Ladder's actually really important in determining how good a scene is. It sounds kind of funny to say that, but I remember that I want to say, I think it was Hotshot GG, but it might have been some other big league player, was saying that because League, I mean, obviously now, but back when League started, there wasn't the huge discrepancy. I want to say like season 1 to like early season 2. I remember like Double Lift told me, he was like, there's not a huge discrepancy right now between Koreans and foreigners. Like the gap wasn't that huge, but we've seen the gap grow. And one of the things that I heard from several top League pros, and it was published publicly, it's not like private or anything, but that if you go and you play high level League on the Korean ladder, it's really fucking serious. Like people take the games very fucking seriously. People don't troll, they don't fuck around. There aren't a bunch of troll picks and goofy item builds. People are actually really serious on the higher levels of the Korean ladder. But when you go to the NA ladder in North American League of Legends, it's kind of a big joke. Like everybody treats it as a joke. Everybody calls the other shit. There's a lot of flaming. There's a lot of raging. A lot of troll picks. A lot of troll builds. Like just like a lot of goofy kind of shit. And it's kind of the same between the NA and the Korean ladder. Like, I mean, I don't think I was ever even GM on the Korean ladder, but once you get like high masters, like in Korea, like the games are relatively serious. I hover around like anywhere from 40 to 80 GM and NA. The games are all like pretty joking. You see the same people a lot. There's a lot of fucking trolling. There's a lot of people that are just kind of fucking around. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of an interesting thing to think about, that the quality of the ladder could be detrimental to the NA scene. Although, I mean, there are a lot of other bad things about it too. But there are some players that do well in Korea, like Scarlet. I think Scarlet almost exclusively plays ladder games. From when I've talked to her, she doesn't do like a lot of like in-house like practicing with Koreans. It's almost exclusively like ladder play in Korea, and she couldn't do that in NA. Maybe in Europe, I don't know, but
it's mostly that. Like the idea that in a team house, all the Koreans just practice with each other all the time is actually bullshit.
Yeah.
Like your bread and butter is ladder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
ladder.
Oh, well, I heard Scarlet and Naniwa both told me that it was really hard to break into, unless you know other foreigners that have had good success doing it. I've heard that it can be hard. Like, you have to, like, it's possible, but you have to really try. Like, if you're a foreigner and you go to a Korean house and play, they won't invite you into custom games ever. Like, you have to make a concerted effort to ask for practice games and shit.
Yeah.
Because they won't do it. That's what I've heard.
It depends if you're preparing for an event.
Custom games, but for the most hours, they're laddering.
Yeah, ladder is a huge part. Yeah, ladder is a huge part for sure.
I think when Scarlett was over there helping us with GSTL, basically most of her practice was still done on ladder, and like it's all the same with the players. But she would be preparing a specific build for a match, and then you would be using either in-house or we would be using our Kesper practice partners for that. because we don't have a big enough house to do a good enough in-house stuff. In fact, frankly, right now, with all the downsizing, it used to be the case that StarTale could do a shitload of in-house. They don't have the numbers anymore. Most of the Kesper teams don't have the numbers either. Like, I'm hearing that there's teams over in Korea that are desperately looking for more practice partners so that they can actually get those games up to the highest possible level to be able to win in Pro League. So that's even the practice situation in Korea is getting worse, and ladder's becoming even more important. And NA, I mean, who do you practice with? Really,
Yeah.
It's
going back 3 years ago. Europe should have been the scene to die. Like, not to trash talk. It's really good that Europe is doing really well now. But I mean, like, all of the big tournaments were in North America. We had fucking MLG, IPL, NASL. It's like I remember I talked to Tilo about this at Home Speak Up for a while, and nobody has like an answer. Like, why the fuck did the NA scene die so fucking hard? Because, like, the NA scene it's embarrassing, like, how bad it is compared to how many people live here, how big the scene was, all the money was here, we had all the sponsorships, we had fucking huge fucking teams, the EG, the Liquid, we had... It seems weird. I don't know, that's really strange to me. I mean, I'm sure you could literally do a whole 5-hour show on...
Absolutely, I know why.
Why?
The European scene was the most inaccessible for the Korean players, and the NA scene got flooded with Koreans. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit more than that. I think it's a case of...
No, that's not the sole reason. You're right, but that's the biggest one, in my opinion.
But if anything, I would think that would be better for NA. No, you have the opportunity to play against a lot of...
and didn't just win like 6 best-of-3s and then take all the checks.
That's it right there.
That's exactly
they're not on the ladder. Like, as we were mentioning earlier, like that Gem Team house, they are actually playing in Europe. And if you want to play against Koreans on the NA ladder, sometimes you will run into them. You know, people like Ryung do play on NA ladder because they're getting back into Challenger and things like that. And occasionally you run into a Korean that wants to play there because they don't want to like show their true builds or their true account or anything. But you will not run into that many of them. And I think that what Jeff mentioned about like WCS and the fact that the Koreans came and kind of dominated that, it came along at like the worst possible time when the NA tournament scene was also dying down, like when you weren't getting NASL seasons, when you weren't getting MLGs, when they basically had a year off. Like, it all culminated in that 2013 where a lot of tournaments that were being held in NA ceased to be held in NA. And then where are the opportunities for the North American players? And I think at that point, shit really tanked.
I mean,
and just weren't the opportunities anymore.
Maybe I'm an asshole, but I don't buy that. It just doesn't seem reasonable to me that NA could be that devoid of talent. That I don't know. I mean, think of all the fucking Koreans that are so good. Remember when did Cody never paid any money, right? There was no money paid out for Cody ever, right?
There was a little bit.
There was
like
was there,
you get
was
like
there a little bit?
$500 for winning Cody.
Okay, because I'm
pretty
pretty
much.
sure at one point in time, like in like the 2012ish era, like Code A was literally filled with any player that could beat every North American player, and those guys made shit money, and that there were people crammed into those fucking Incredible Miracle, StarTale Gaming House, fucking 15, 20 people in these fucking gaming houses, not making any salary, not getting any money for streaming. I guess maybe getting $500 from Code A or whatever, but all of those guys seem to outclass the North American talent. Like, why weren't they quitting playing? I don't know. I feel like the conversation is a little bit more complicated than the Koreans came over and took our gerbs, took our paychecks for tournaments, so now we're all gonna suck shit forever at the game. I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't seem possible that could be the only reason. You know?
No, it's not the only reason.
You have to go back even further, like, and look at the LAN culture that Europe's had for like the last almost 20 fucking years.
You absolutely do.
Like,
Their
and look
Warcraft
at
3
Warcraft
scene
3.
was so developed.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you got to
These
look at
guys were
that
pro
kind of
gamers
stuff.
for 6, 7, 8 years before Americans even knew what that was like. It was very rare for people like an Idra, like a Noni, to go over to Korea and spend any time playing a video game, and they did all that as practice partners making zero money. So it was like this weird, like, suicidal thing to do because they were giving up school, they were giving up socializing. It was insane. Whereas in Europe, they were doing it for a very long time.
It is easier to live as a pro gamer in Europe. The housing costs may very well be higher, taxation may be higher, but since you're making no money anyway, tax doesn't matter, and you're getting a decent amount of support from the government, which you don't get in the US. And that is just true story. Like in most European states, you can make that happen.
Like, there was teams that were doing that, is what I'm saying. In America, there weren't teams doing that, and the people that did do that went and competed against Asians who, you can be on Europe's dick all you want. Every time Europe clashes with Korea or China or Asia, you see the Asians are just better than us at these games. So when Europe has like an isolated, self-fulfilling and growing scene where Europeans are playing Europeans mostly, that profits. That's good. They get better. Whereas what generally happens for Americans, and I'm not blaming we're not the victim, whatever, there's reasons for everything that happens, but what ends up happening is that they end up competing not mostly with Europeans who would be closer to us in skill level, but jumping ship, going straight to the very top, and then we get slaughtered. And it's not even fucking close. It's not like Idra, did okay at the beginning, and that was great, and then look what that did for like EG and other organizations. Greg was the shit, you know what I mean? So if we had more guys doing what Greg did, the scene would be bigger, but it was really only Greg, then Huck kind of did it, and then Scarlett did it, but, like very few Americans. Yeah, General's Swedish. That gets into a different category.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But like Americans have only had a few that were able to compete at the highest of levels, and they were the proofs in the pudding. They did amazing. Huck was like a superstar when he was winning those tournaments. He was the superstar, right?
He was,
Yeah.
But then when these things go away, when they're not competing anymore, the floor gets pulled out below them and they fade away.
Yeah. I think what has to happen is you can't really just like throw a Shoutcraft every couple of months and expect the NA scene to fix itself. I think it's got so past the point that you can fix it by just doing that a massive upheaval has to happen. Like, it would have to be as extreme as Blizzard coming out and announcing, like, next year that there's a full region lock in place. They're resetting all the rankings. They've got a full region lock in place. They're going to start from scratch. And frankly, like, maybe it's the time, if they were going to do that, and that sounds like insane and extreme, but maybe it is the only way, 2015 would probably be the time to do it. And I think that with the amount of viewership that WCS NA is currently getting, which is falling, by the way, significantly, and it's obvious to see that WCS NA is lackluster. Like, would it lose too much more from just going full NA? Hell, you might be able to argue that it might gain a little bit. I mean, right now, WCS NA is getting less views than Shoutcraft America Winter did, and that was the worst event I have ever run. So, that's something that needs to be fixed. Like I said, it's a super extreme way of doing things, but I think maybe it's got to the point where that's the only way to really turn things around.
I agree
John's
with
point
John
is dead
entirely.
on.
It needs WCS it needs to be addressed. Like WCS needs to be sexy. It's not a sexy product right now.
No.
So like right now, like StarCraft relies on the third party products right now. Like DreamHack is very sexy. All of John's products are very sexy. Like, it needs to be, I don't know.
And that's kind of hilarious, because actually my products are absolutely fucking terrible. Like, I spend $40 on video production for Shoutcraft SanDisk.
He's just being
$40
polite here, John.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say, like, off the call, he's like, what the fuck is he doing?
Sexy.
He's got, like, 3
Whoa,
loops,
hang on. That
3 video
rotating
loops, that's
Shoutcraft that you have with, like, planets and stars zooming by?
That cost me
Dude.
$10.
It looks like it cost $10.
$10, yeah.
Good.
I got me
You'd be
fucking
amazed how
It's like a
$10.
mobile.
You'd be
Yeah,
amazed
I
how
got the-
sexy things can get for $40.
Hey man, I made that
John.
logo move with my elite Adobe Premiere skills. Like, it moves very slightly and makes people nauseous. It's incredible. It's absolutely fantastic. That's the extent of my video production skills on display right there.
TB was
But-
going to change it until he heard
You guys
it made people sick
slamming
and he kept it.
WCS.
Yeah, exactly.
Our favorite troll, like Feed Me, this weekend just like posted a picture of like the DreamHack crowd, like as they went into the finals, and it was just like it's just so much more compelling. I think third parties do StarCraft better than WCS does it right now, and I think that's
also,
one
like,
of the
WCS is
daily
not a good event.
broadcasts kind of made it hard for that to be super exciting. That's part of the reason why we lost MLG. It's part of the reason why. Well, it is the reason why NASL originally had to reshape the way they were going to go. I'm not blaming Blizzard for why these died, but in my opinion, it's really hard to get excited about an event when I've seen all these players every single goddamn day, and then they're like, and now we see if they win money. And it's like, well, I've already, like, that's not the biggest selling point for these things. And they're like, well, WCS points for the grand final. And I'm like, but I saw this guy just yesterday, and the next WCS season starts 2 weeks after this one. So who cares if he doesn't win it? He's already guaranteed to be in the top 16 or whatever. I'm going to see him again. Part of the reason why LCS gets a lot of attention, and this is just part of it, this is almost a bad analogy, maybe it is, because there's so much that goes into it, but it's so fucking severe, and it's twice a week, which I think is a good thing, by the way. So you do see these players all the time, but it gets to a certain point where, like, if they're knocked out, you know this kid moved from Europe and is living in a house on a team that's going to cut his ass the second he's not in LCS. That's
Yeah.
some fucked up shit. That's drama.
It is.
That's
Dude,
that's
absolutely
interesting.
nuts.
In WCS, it's almost like you don't have that. You don't. And
It's
tough.
very hard for a Korean to get kicked out of WCS Premier League. Like in the current format, unless you lose in the round of 32, which is fairly unlikely, and I guess unless you get a really shit group draw, you're probably in there next season for a guaranteed payday at the
And
moment.
more are coming, John. That's the thing too. Like every single season, look at WCS NA now. 2 Chinese individuals, 1 Juan, 13 Koreans. And it's only going to get higher in that ratio. Like it's kind of cool that there's Chinese players, but the Chinese players all cheese every single game that they play, so it's like they're all fairly similar in that way, anyways. So it's really it's getting worse, and it's because on a daily level we see all of them, and there's no unique challenge to this. Like part of the mystique of Brood War was you only had like 3 major tournaments a fucking year, and there was not daily broadcast, excuse me, but there was a league that built up to that, but there was only 1 league. And it was all the absolute best. So it had draw to it. It had reason for why this was a big deal. But in WCS, because of the way the scene is, we have WCS, which is meant to be the only thing every single day. But then there's still people that, God bless their souls, like Dreamhack and like MLG this weekend, who are like, can we do StarCraft 2? And they're like putting both their hands between the ass cheeks and like ripping as hard as they can to peer into that anus of StarCraft. And they're
My
getting
God.
little glimpses. They're getting it.
Oh my
But
God.
you know how fucked up this is? We just crowned a Home Story Cup champion. We did crown a Dreamhack champion. The next weekend, we're crowning a goddamn MLG champion. And then the weekend after that is a WCS guy going from the round of 8 to the finals. Like, every fucking weekend. And in between that, WCS every day. Like if John wants to do another Shoutcraft, he's crammed in there somewhere. He's got his little fist inside that anus too, and everyone's digging at that butthole and stretching
Jeff,
it.
I resent the accusation that I have a little fist.
Oh,
And I was
didn't
going to
even-
say,
I didn't even see that
Nothing
coming.
little about that fist.
I was
bro.
talking about your hand, talking about StarCraft's butt. So
John actually gives me fist envy.
Shouldn't I mean?
So the reason why we're having such a tough time is because we're oversaturated, and any one little thing kicks the dominoes over. So like right now, TI4, which is the opposite of, like the Dota scene's oversaturated too, but TI4 dominates so hard that it's so easy for people to uniquely get excited about TI4 because it's such a once a year type of thing. So once a year. And in that once a year thing, it's got a footprint of a couple months, like I said, but that means everything else is diminished in that time. Yeah, it's just really rough right now. In my opinion, I wish next year they would region lock like a motherfucker. They would do away with daily broadcasts. They would cram it into 2-day broadcasts, like a challenger one day and a premiere one day. Maybe some of the content's not filmed. Maybe you don't get on there. Open up the scene so that tournaments like Dreamhack can do more. If people want to do their own tournament, which like they go get sponsors and they pull them into the scene and they're doing what they can to grow it as well, kind of like we had pre-WCS. Then there's room to do that.
Is that better? Is that better than just having one big tournament at the end of the year? Just having like this whole WCS thing. Like, what if they just went to that route where they just have one big tournament at BlizzCon with
How
a
do
lot
they
of money?
choose who comes though? I think
No,
Jeff is absolutely right. Like the scene needs something to string it along throughout the year, and I right now think the current iteration, and if I'm guesstimating at what Jeff is getting at, I don't think what it is right now does it, but it can be done. I think is what the overall message is. Like it can be done.
I think
I can
the
tell
Can
you
I
what-
can I
Yeah, go ahead.
can I throw like a totally fucking opposite to everything? I
Standard.
don't think
Why
that
not?
I don't think the oversaturation. I don't think that has like much of an impact on anything. I think that the problem is that there aren't as many fans of the events anymore, and there aren't as many players that have all those fans. Like I said, like when the NA team dropped off and you lost all of those, like how many fans were there of like Liquid Chef? How many fans were there of like Huck? Of my fans who used to watch my stream, like of all the different people. I think that as those people just fall off and go to other games, I think that's the big problem when you lose the viewerships. Like we talk about like all these tournaments, it's really bad for viewership. But then I mean, if you look at like League of Legends, like there are people who can stream to 20,000 people every single day of the week. Like every single day, several hours a day, they're not getting oversaturated on content. If I turn my stream on and I stream to 2,000 or 3,000 people, I can do that every single day of the week. Like they're not getting oversaturated on content. I do agree that maybe to some extent, like oversaturation can hurt things. But if there are players that you want to see play, that you enjoy seeing playing, and they have like their own legitimate fan bases, I don't think that people are going to be like I don't think there are any diehard Scarlet fans out there who are going to be like, God, Scarlet just played at home streak on a DreamHack. I'm not going to watch her play in fucking MLG.
No, no, no.
Fuck that. I'm so
I think we're talking
oversaturated.
about two different fan bases. Those aren't the same people. The people that watch streams are not the people that cram a stream with 120,000 plus. Those are the people that are attracted by the people that show up, but they're not hardcore fans. Otherwise, streams would have 120,000 people on it.
They're
Yeah,
fans
sure,
of a
but I don't agree.
spectacle
I don't
as
think
opposed
that there are
to-
people that just enjoy watching just professional StarCraft. I do think that there are people that enjoy watching like certain players play during tournaments, whether it's high level Koreans or whether like Scarlet might have like 20 or 30,000 people that are watch her play during a tournament, but might not have like 20,000 people that will watch her play on a stream. I do think that stream viewership numbers, and I guess Totalbiscuit would know this better than me, but I feel like stream viewership numbers are driven by who you have playing. I think that's a very important aspect.
I agree with you.
Of a stream.
I'm agreeing with you.
It's that and casters and also name recognition of the
Yeah, and
event.
casters,
Ultimately,
yeah.
like you can have the same players playing at several different events, and the viewership's going to wildly vary based on just how well that thing was actually presented in the first place and how well it was marketed.
It gets tough though. It's very weird. StarCraft is like a very weird space because it's a 1v1 game. Like one of the things that when I think about StarCraft, and I think it's really important to keep in mind, is right now it is, despite the success of other esports, it's the premier 1v1 game.
Yeah.
I think, and Jeff would echo this. Going to WCS last year, stream viewers tanked a ton for personal streams. This might be something that I hope Alex never mentions me about. There was a month where the Muslim last year, very prior to, immediately prior to the new WCS rules, where like you couldn't stream during the WCS broadcast if you were a WCS player. He made more as a streamer than we paid him as an Evil Geniuses players, and he
was paid well.
Yeah, he was paid very well, and
I
it
can
just
believe
absolutely killed him. It just
He was
absolutely
in like
killed him.
10k concurrents at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Like
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That
it
was a thing that happened.
insane. It was a nuts amount of money. Yeah, I just remember distributing that, and I was just like,
To be fair,
"You're rich, everyone." Like, there's horns and fanfare. Like, it's just
to be
I
fair,
don't
back
know.
then though, streaming was much more lucrative. Like the CPM was a lot higher, but also as games became more popular, the viewership of streaming has grown, but it's diversified too. Now people are all watching different games. It's not like that's one
Sure.
thing that always irked
Yeah.
me is a lot of people looked at like streaming numbers for StarCraft and they're like, oh, the interest is gone. That's obviously StarCraft as a game, as an RTS, was always going to go like this, plateau, then dip, then plateau again. It's never going to continue to grow. That's not how the game works. It's too hard. It's too complex. There's always going to be people that come and go and move on to easier things. That's just how I was here for Brood War, guys. This is how it goes. But with viewership, StarCraft got in when it was like the only main thing streamed competitively. Like that's why all our numbers were so amazing. And as time went on, LoL became legitimate, Dota became legitimate. Now there's CS:GO that people watch on a regular basis, Hearthstone. The options are growing, and in general, actually, people are just becoming casual Twitch viewers now. You're not even actually people that don't even go to watch a fucking game. They go to surf Twitch for fuck's sake.
Yeah, they do that. There's also one
That's
other
a
thing
very
I'd like to
fair
point
point.
out.
Yeah,
Like
that's
the
awesome.
idea that a lot of competitive gamers actually get watched a huge amount on Twitch is actually bullshit, regardless of which game you're talking about. Even League of Legends doesn't have that many people that are regularly going to top 10k. If we look at it right now, there's 2 people who are above 10k. Odd One's on 11k streaming XCOM, and Hot Shots.
Wow.
Hot
Get
Shots
off
doing
of my
22k
territory,
right now.
Odd One.
I'm pretty sure most of the TSM, it might not be this way right now, but I know for a fact that there was a time in League where almost any TSM guy would get 10 to 15,000 plus every single time.
Yeah,
they
I
streamed.
remember
don't
seeing
know, but
Playboy get 50k. Like
Yeah.
that,
not just one time,
as
but
far as
every
hasn't
single
happened
day
since.
for like
But
10
even
plus
that has
hours
dipped.
every single day.
Yeah, that doesn't happen
I don't know.
anymore.
I haven't looked. I mean,
Yeah.
somebody who
Just-
knows League might know better than me, but
Viewership in
But
general
Jerickson
on
does,
Twitch
yeah.
for competitive gamers, there's only a tiny handful per game that actually get viewership at all. StarCraft probably had the most for a while and has since kind of dropped off, but I'm seeing like drop-offs across the board, across everything. I mean, fuck, I'm looking at the front page of Twitch right now, and Call of Duty isn't even in the top 12 games viewed at the moment, and it's like still one of the biggest esports on the planet. The biggest stream for COD right now is Crim6 with 979 viewers. I mean, I could do an unannounced
don't
stream
so
of me
much
picking
more
my
ball.
nose and beat that.
I don't know. I wouldn't guess that MLG would be higher, but that was the entire point of MLG launching their own platform, is to coax these Call of Duty kids away from Twitch. That's like the sole reason.
I don't know what
platform-
numbers they're getting though. Like, I mean,
No,
Clan
it's not
Wars
much higher
numbers
than
are
that.
pretty
like
good.
Nade Shot
but
gets a lot higher, but he's like the guy in the
Yeah,
Call
yeah,
Wars.
he's the dude. He's the
They
dude.
average
Optics
between, like, a good
marketing
stream
is
1,500
phenomenal.
2,500. A good Call
Yeah, I
of
think
Duty.
a lot of people in the chat are
1,525,
saying that there are a
that's
lot of League streamers who every time they turn on their stream get 10k plus. The Bergeron guy, the
If by a
fucking
lot, they
I
mean
wouldn't
like
say that.
Jerkson gets a
There's
lot.
like
5,
10,
10, yeah.
20. I mean,
no,
there's
like
not
10
that,
plus every time.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
not.
I
but there's
mean-
not a lot of people that can do that.
Oh, yeah,
there
sure,
are
of course,
definitely
of course.
some though.
I mean, double it.
Yeah, of course there's not a lot, yeah.
There has been a drop off in that scene, but what's actually really interesting is that their scene is it's fickle. Like they go to who the latest thing is and who's the winning one right now in their scene. Like it used to be, if you were just a LoL streamer and you were successful, you got 20k, and that's awesome. That was amazing. But now, because the viewership has diversified, it's become more like, oh no, this is the guy in the NA scene, or this is the European guy, and there's like 10 or 20 of them, which is still a lot, by the way. We're not hating on the LoL numbers. You can't. But it's not what it used to be, which was like this stream utopia where everyone had 20,000.
Yeah,
I think not
just
everyone.
flat out
I
across the
think-
board viewership is just down for competitive streams. In my
I think-
opinion.
John might be able to chime in here. So, this is the way esports works. So, like, I think maybe 2 years ago, maybe even last year, it was really easy to pull the wool over the eyes of like everyone making decisions. They were like, "Wow, these law numbers are really important." So, if you just wanted the quick and easy cash grab, you just said like, "Well, you know, like we have like a law team, or like the law numbers are very important, and you give us money." But what John has done over the last year, and I actually think is very important, is StarCraft tends to spend more money. They tend to be older, right?
The
And
buying
these-
power of the
these-
viewership is higher.
Yeah, these small metrics, like like if you can indicate that, like, hey, maybe these people are more prone to spending money, those things go a long way. So
It's just basic
StarCraft
demographics.
is
It
done.
happens in
Yeah.
every part of the marketing industry. It's like, what's your average age of your viewers? What are their spending habits? Is it one older than the other? Is one, on average, more well off? This is the kind of information that you can try to derive from metrics and things like that. And
Yeah.
I've said it before, there is a space in every single thing for some degree of marketing. Like, it's not just, oh, we got Coke or we got Ford. There's like 1,000,001 companies that could benefit from advertising with an esport, and certainly not all of them are going to be able to afford to sponsor LCS or anything like that. For God's sake, there's a reason why like a local pie shop will sponsor like some local sports team or whatever. This is only something that happens in the UK. This never happens in the US. But
I mean,
the
it's
local
just what
pie
it-
shop sponsor Spennymoor United or whatever for
Yeah.
200 quid a month. That's there. That's available. Everyone's
It
going to want to
exists,
advertise
yeah.
some way.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, like the value there is like with League of Legends with numbers. I think a lot of people come off. So Coke Zero sponsored League. I mean, that was the highlight of as League of Legends moved into 2014. Like that was like the creme de la creme. Like boys we've ascended. Like Coke Zero sponsored their like Challenger League, which was supposed to seed into their main league.
And you
Except
got a
the
free
teams
visa on
nev-
every ring pull as well. Like
Exactly. Like there we go. Richard Lewis. Like so this was supposed to seed into the Challenger League, except like it never did, and the teams oftentimes fell apart. And I'm sure Coke Zero, like on a very superficial level, was satisfied because there are probably a ton of viewers, and you could just deliver the ton of viewers, like the conversions. Like the conversions are really where it matters. So Dota and StarCraft 2 are oftentimes better because the players are older. They oftentimes have more disposable income. It just gets nuts and hairy up here. And I have no idea what the fuck conversation we started at. Like,
Yes, I don't know
Yeah.
what's
All
got
right.
to do at the end of this scene.
Well, let's.
But there's one final point I want to make about NA before I jump
Okay,
off, and I'm
sure.
going to have to jump off pretty soon, is that if they did go down this route, and if they decided, you know what, the only way to save the NA scene is to amputate all of the Koreans that made their way over, then you've got to put them somewhere. I really do genuinely think the biggest problem at the moment is not actually the NA scene. I think everything comes from the fact that there's so little to play in Korea for the vast majority of people. And if you're not Kesper, of course, you don't get to play in Pro League. That's why ESF came to pieces. There is a very top-heavy WCS where the biggest prize is for the one who comes in first place, and you can actually end up earning less doing much higher-end competition. Which is why anyone that wasn't like a potential GSL champion said, fuck this, I'm going to EU or NA. This is much better. I'm more likely to get a regular paycheck here. And there's so many. There's like over 100 competitive players that could beat pretty much anybody in Korea right now. And you can't say the same of any other region. Sure. And if they do decide to go down this route, something's got to be fucking done. I don't know who's going to do it. I doubt GOM could do it. I doubt they've got the budget. I don't know if Spot TV would want to do something and maybe expand out from Pro League. Maybe Kesper wants to get involved in some way. You know, OGN seems like they don't want to get back into it. Maybe someone like ESL would decide, you know what, let's make a tournament in Korea. Let's do something like that. They could do that. They could have it on at a time which is actually friendly to at least one of the foreign audiences. Maybe they run it in the morning. They market it towards foreigners instead of, say, GSL main sponsor is Hot 6. Which you can't buy outside of Korea, and yet 95% of their audience is outside of Korea. There seems like there's a real business model problem over there, and I think it would need a foreign company to come in and actually work on that. I don't know if that will ever happen though.
Yeah.
All right. Well, all right, John. Thanks for stopping by, man. Are you
Yeah,
sure you don't want to stick around for Ruff and Minigun?
I've said everything that needs to be said about Ruff. He was a fucking asshole and got what he deserved.
Right.
Simple as that.
All right. Thanks,
around,
buddy.
guys. Bye.
Yep. Later.
Yeah, night, dude.